Please continue to eat. We're going to eat and talk, so I don't want to interfere with your breakfast. Let me first of all introduce myself. I'm Chris Dobson, the Executive Chairman of the Exchange Lab, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today through the rain and the tube problems and what have you. We're very pleased to see you all here. And just on logistics, if you do need Wi-Fi, there is a Wi-Fi code on your table on the invites or the agendas or whatever. And in terms of the rest of the logistics, we should be finished, we're aiming to finish around 12:30. So please do stay and ask questions, because today is all about interactivity. It's all about sort of uncovering some of the myths around the programmatic space and bringing some industry experts and some real experience in the space to bear, so that hopefully you leave today with some answers to questions that may have been burning in your head for a while, or at least the ability to sort of further engage with us to get those questions answered. I did an article a day or so ago where I described the programmatic business as the next revolution in media. And the reality is that it's sort of crept up on us. And if you live in the US, it's crept up on you even faster than it has in Europe or especially in Asia. But that effect is coming. And I think we'll start with just a couple of reasons why we think you should pay attention. This is US data, and I worked in television for a long time, and many of you will have worked in many media other than digital. But I thought this particular data point was interesting because for the first time, television, which has sailed on relatively unaffected by digital media or any other change in media over the last 10 to 15 years, especially in the US, where it's incredibly strong, is now projected to be the sort of last thing that digital overtakes. So in the next 3 years, digital is projected to be bigger than television in the US. Now, of course, after that, the definitions get a bit woolly because they'll all start to merge in terms of what's digital, what's not digital. What's intriguing, though, is that given that trajectory, in the US today, this year, already 60% plus of all of that digital trading is programmatic. So programmatic is no longer a niche activity, it's a mainstream activity, and it's shaping the future of how media is bought and how data is brought to bear to really solve marketing and media questions. And obviously technology is a part of that, but it's a facilitator. And where our industry has sometimes made a mistake is to get obsessed with the technology and forget that you as marketers have real world problems to solve and communication aims that our technology facilitates. So hopefully that's the first thing to sort of note. This is a mainstream activity, and that by the convergence of that, the majority of digital media and the beginnings of television will be traded programmatically. If you look at the UK, it's not much different. The UK is probably the second most developed market in the world in the programmatic space. And you can see here, this is the very latest projection, September this year, that you're seeing an awful lot of penetration in terms of programmatic. So programmatic is something which is a part of yours and our lives. It's a major change. From my perspective, it's as big as some of the other revolutions that we had in the sort of last 15 years, whether they be search, mobile, social. Programmatic is the next thing that we all need to get our heads around. So we're here today really to sort of help bring some of those issues to bear, from not what we necessarily say as the Exchange Lab, but what our clients say and what experts in the industry say about the things that they're hearing from clients, people like yourselves, and some of the answers to some of those questions. So before we move into the first session, I thought it worth mentioning a little bit about the Exchange Lab, for those of you who are not familiar with us. The Exchange Lab is one of the world's leading independent programmatic specialists. We've been going since 2008, and at that point, the whole idea that bringing multiple sources of inventory to bear under a technology layer to solve marketing problems was relatively new. These days, it's pretty much how most of the industry talks. Our philosophy is a very simple one, though. It's about simplification. As you all know, the industry has become incredibly complicated. You look at the Lumascapes and what have you, there are thousands of companies making thousands of promises. And what we try to do for clients is simplify that by bringing to bear all the things that you need to be caring about in your media buy under one roof. Now, we do use technology to facilitate that. The Proteus platform that we use allows us to scale, and it allows us to scale multinationally. The beauty of programmatic is that you don't have to be actually in the country to be an effective buyer of media. And that's something which has become extremely useful to some of our clients, one of which will be here today talking about it. But the other philosophy that we have, and I think this is an important one, is that this is not just an automation play. It is not press the button and forget. We thoroughly believe that the service levels that you expect from a company like ours are as important as they've always been. Your ability to understand and action what we do to the benefit of your business is something which we need to actively engage with you on. So we're very much, in terms of the sort of man-machine mix, the man piece is incredibly important. We don't think that's ever going to go away. Now, whilst most of our dev team have got a sort of financial services background, because funnily enough, people have been building big, scalable platforms to trade in the city for a long time, the difference is that your brands still need to be looked after. Audiences are real people that don't necessarily react in the way that you would predict. And therefore, there's always going to be a layer of human interaction over the technology in order to make sure that what you need to be doing with your brand in front of your consumers is appropriate and safe and all the other things that we'll get into today. So, the aims of the session today are to bring a few things to bear that we think you're going to find important. The first session is about publishers. There is the source of the inventory. There's a whole industry that is very good at accessing it, but ultimately the industry is created by publishers who engage with consumers. And so our first panel will be talking about that. The other element, which is massively important, and a lot of you know is the sort of secret sauce of what you do, is how do you use your data? How do you use the intelligence you have about your clients and your customers and bring it to bear directly to your marketing? So that element of joining that circle between your first or third-party data into direct marketing action is absolutely the promise of programmatic. So we're going to talk about that. Following that, we'll be talking about some of the hairier issues, some of the things that may be on your minds that are always talked about in the press, and trying to bring some sort of perspective to some of those elements as well. And then finally, we'll have the real experience of a client, IHG, that we're very happy to have with us today, who have been actively engaged in this programmatic space across multi-countries and have gone through a great deal of the learning process that many of you are embarking on or on course for. So, all in all, we should hopefully have a productive session. We want you to ask questions. We'll certainly allow for Q&A. We want it to be interactive, and we don't want to sort of like gloss over some of the issues that might be burning in your minds, and we want to have those addressed. So that's really where we come from, and that's how we as the Exchange Lab operate. We are very much agnostic. We gain our inventory and our audiences in a way that's right for you, the clients, and not in any other way. So being independent and agnostic is a very useful thing in the programmatic space because you want to remain pure. You don't want to be making decisions which are informed by other deals or other influences. So that's why we've assembled who we've assembled today, so that we're bringing to bear experts in the business that hopefully you will find useful.